It's incredible that Australian women are having now to fight for their right to say women are women and men are not. A week ago, we already had a federal court judge declare a man could indeed be a woman, so a woman's only internet chat site was wrong to exclude a man who had had surgery to become a transgender woman. I mean, this is nuts. And now another case in Victoria's Administrative Appeals Tribunal this week. The Victorian-based Lesbian Action Group is asking this tribunal to overturn a decision by the Australian Human Rights Commission, made last October, which banned this lesbian group from excluding transgender women from its events. It said you can't ban men who say they are women and still like women sexually as well from lesbian events. Joining me is someone who's been very active in fighting for women's rights against transgender extremists, and I've watched in horror to see her grossly bullied for it. Holly Lawford-Smith is an associate professor in political philosophy at Melbourne University. Holly, thank you for coming on. Look, before we just start, I need to say how much I've admired your strength in putting up with the unbelievable harassment that you have suffered for years now. But this case in the Administrative Appeals Tribunal, what is the Lesbian Action Group arguing here?
Well, they were seeking to have events for lesbians only, and by that they really meant just lesbians. They wanted to exclude all, like gay men, straight women, bisexual women, queer women, anyone who's not a lesbian, and in their language, lesbian born female, because they decided to kind of play the game of the AHRC's new, slightly convoluted language. And as you said last year, that request for an exemption to have lesbian-only events was turned down. And so this last 2 days have been the appeal, and I've been sitting in on the appeal, which has been kind of an equal part like hilarious, surreal, depressing, upsetting, weird. Lots of supporters there though, so that aspect of it has been nice at least, but hard to say how it will go.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it? You're sitting now in a living Kafka novel. What did the Human Rights Commission say when it told the Lesbian Action Group last year it could not exclude transgender women? What's its reasoning?
Well, it was quite interesting because they kind of had a section in their judgment on the sorts of exemptions or exclusions that would probably be lawful. And they said it would probably be lawful to exclude heterosexual men and women. The sort of question mark where it looked like it would be likely to be unlawful, or at least like that was the kind of greatest risk that was flagged in the judgment, was that it would count as discrimination on the basis of gender identity. So even though a lot of the appeal over the last 2 days has had the AHRC denying that there's any hierarchy of attributes, it's very noteworthy that trans women are the community that was kind of named in that rejection of the exemption request. Maybe it's fine to exclude bisexual women and gay men, right? Even though those are recognised minorities protected by the Sex Discrimination Act. The big problem was rejecting the idea that trans women can be lesbians, but trans women are women. So the fight is really on over the exclusion of trans women from lesbian spaces. And that was an interesting issue in the appeal because the Lesbian Action Group lawyer and sort of team kept making the point, these women are seeking to exclude everyone who's not a lesbian, again, in their language, lesbian born female. And then the AHRC kept kind of bringing up trans women and how marginalized the trans community are and wanting to sort of talk about trans women. So it was a very interesting kind of tension where it seemed like there was a bit of cross-talking going on.
Well, I think people should be able to choose their own company, and if transgender women feel excluded, they can form perhaps their own group. I don't know, or find one that is more compatible for them. But what is the problem with the Lesbian Action Group of being forced to include transgender women?
Look, I think this is it's so obvious in the case of lesbian community in particular. I mean, lesbians and then lesbian feminists, which the Lesbian Action Group is. So lesbians are people who sleep with and have romantic engagements with other female people. And then lesbian feminists are people who put all of their sort of like emotional energies and political energies into women. So there's no place for men in that community. There's no sexual or romantic place, and there's no kind of political place. So the sort of forced inclusion or mandatory inclusion being pushed by the AHRC to make these women have men self-identify in, it's just ridiculous. It would just involve those women lying and pretending or being polite but having zero interest in romantic or sexual engagements or political activity or any sort of association with those men. Like that's part of their philosophy and politics, that they are kind of separatists from men.
Well, Holly, you know what the next step would be, that if you then refuse to date someone in one of these clubs, you then are exposed again to discrimination, claims of discrimination. And there's got to be a stop to this. Holly Lawford Smith, thank you so much indeed for your time.